Have you ever felt it? That distinct, almost humming awareness in a room where everyone else seems blissfully oblivious. It's a sensation that transcends mere observation, a deep, intuitive knowing that plunges far beneath the tranquil surface of polite conversation. You sit there, a silent witness to a familiar and meticulously orchestrated performance, a ballet of social niceties and practiced smiles. You see the subtle tremor in a hand reaching for a wine glass, a fleeting shadow of fear that darkens the eyes for a fraction of a second, the almost imperceptible clenching of a jaw when a sensitive topic is broached. You are not just hearing the words being spoken, you are tuned into a completely different frequency, a channel of raw, unfiltered truth that broadcasts the silent symphony of human emotion. While the world around you is captivated by the melody of the superficial, you are moved by the powerful, often jarring, bass line of what remains unsaid, of what is desperately hidden. This experience, this unique and often isolating perception, is not a flaw. It is a sacred calling. It is the undeniable sign that you are a deep thinker, an old soul navigating a world that has largely forgotten how to listen. If this resonates with the very core of your being, know that you have found a sanctuary here. This message is for you. Share your journey in the comments. Let us know we are not alone by typing "I resonate" or 777 and subscribe to connect with a tribe that understands the profound language of the soul. Imagine yourself at a gathering, surrounded by the warm, ambient glow of what should be joyful connection. Laughter erupts at predetermined intervals, a mechanical response to well-worn anecdotes. Heads nod in synchronized approval, a silent pact to maintain the fragile peace of the surface. The conversation flows like a shallow, predictable stream, meandering through the safe territories of weather patterns, vacation destinations, and the latest binge-worthy series that everyone is consuming but few are truly digesting. It's a carefully constructed illusion of intimacy, a performance designed to keep discomfort at bay. But you, with your soul's antenna perpetually extended, perceive something entirely different. You feel the crushing weight of unspoken anxieties, the quiet desperation behind a forced smile, the profound loneliness masked by boisterous laughter. You hear the tremor in Michael's voice as he speaks of his recent promotion, a vibration that betrays not pride, but a deep-seated fear of inadequacy and the looming specter of failure. You notice Jennifer's eyes, how they dart away, seeking a non-existent escape route the moment someone inquires about her marriage. You see the way her smile tightens at the corners, a micro-expression of pain that is invisible to all but you. You feel the heavy, oppressive silence that envelops David whenever the discussion turns to ambition and success, the way he retreats into an inner fortress, shielding his own perceived shortcomings from the world's judgmental gaze. It's as if you are the only one in the room with the divine ability to see in full, vibrant color, while everyone else is content with a world rendered in muted shades of gray. You see the intricate, often heartbreaking, tapestry of human experience, while they see only the simple, two-dimensional sketch. This is not a curse. It is your divine nature. The others, they seem utterly oblivious to these subtle undercurrents, these powerful emotional tides that pull and shape the very atmosphere of the room. They are content, perhaps even determined, to skim across the surface of human interaction, like polished stones skipping on placid water, never once breaking the tension to plunge into the mysterious depths below. They engage in a dance of shadows, a carefully choreographed performance where authenticity is sacrificed for the sake of comfort and conformity. But you cannot help but dive deep. With every glance, every pregnant pause, every carefully chosen word, you submerge yourself in the vast, often turbulent, ocean of truth that lies just beneath the veneer of social harmony. You couldn't stop it even if you wanted to. It's as if you possess an invisible, spiritual sonar, a divine instrument that picks up on frequencies others cannot hear, that deciphers the complex codes of the human heart. You are not merely a participant in this human theater. You are its most astute and compassionate observer, a silent guardian of its unspoken truths. When the conversation inevitably shifts to the predictable cadence of current events, a familiar stirring begins within you. It's a soul-deep yearning for substance, for meaning, for the kind of profound dialogue that nourishes the spirit and expands the consciousness. Here, you feel, is a chance for something real, a potential opening to transcend the mundane and touch upon the eternal. With a heart full of genuine curiosity and a voice imbued with the weight of sincere concern, you might lean forward, gently attempting to steer the conversation into deeper waters. Isn't it fascinating? You might venture, how we've never been more technologically connected, yet studies show that rates of loneliness are at an all-time high. You might speak of the paradox of social media, how it masterfully creates the illusion of connection while simultaneously fostering a profound sense of isolation. You might wonder aloud, are we truly connecting with one another, or are we just performing connection for an invisible audience? But as you speak, you feel it. You feel the almost imperceptible shift in the room's energy, the subtle collective retreat. You feel the invisible force field that immediately surrounds your words, a barrier erected by those who fear the very depth you offer. It's a familiar sting, a quiet rejection, not of you as a person, but of the truth you represent. And so, with a polite, practiced smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes, you retreat back into the silent sanctuary of your own mind, the weight of your unspoken thoughts feeling like heavy, smooth stones in your pockets. You become, once again, an island of profound awareness in a sea of comfortable unconsciousness. This is the sacred burden and the magnificent gift of the deep thinker. This is the very story of the deep thinker, a narrative that is not a fairy tale of misunderstood genius, but a raw, honest, and unflinching exploration of what it truly means to see with clarity in a world that overwhelmingly prefers the comforting embrace of blindness. It is the story of those who cannot help but feel deeply, think critically, and question constantly in a society that so often rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. You are part of a lineage of souls who have always walked this path. The great psychologist Carl Jung, who dedicated his life to mapping the hidden territories of the human psyche, understood this phenomenon with intimate clarity. He wrote, "The more intelligent and self-aware a person is, the more they suffer from the general unconsciousness of society. This is not intended as a badge of honor, but as a solemn warning, a divine recognition of the beautiful and often heavy burden carried by those who cannot unsee what they have seen, who cannot unknow what their soul has realized. You have been initiated into a deeper level of perception, and with that comes a responsibility to your own truth." The pioneering German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously declared that God is dead, understood the profound loneliness that accompanies the act of seeing through society's comfortable and often deceiving illusions. He wrote extensively about the free spirits, those rare and courageous individuals who had broken free from the restrictive chains of conventional thinking and mass morality. These souls, he argued, were destined to wander in a wilderness of their own making, a landscape forged from their own independent thoughts and authentic values. These free spirits, Nietzsche believed, were absolutely essential for the progress and evolution of human consciousness. They were the trailblazers, the visionaries, the ones who dared to question the status quo and imagine new possibilities for humanity. But they paid a heavy, often excruciating, price for their liberation. Their journey was one of profound solitude, of being fundamentally misunderstood by the very society they sought to elevate. The deep thinker's journey so often begins in the tender, formative years of childhood, in those moments when the world is first presented as a set of rules to be followed without question. While other children readily accept the world as it appears on the surface, the nascent deep thinker begins to ask the questions that make adults deeply uncomfortable. Why do grown-ups say one thing but do another? Why do we have to pretend to be happy when we're feeling sad? Why does love sometimes feel so conditional? Why do the rules of the world seem so arbitrary and unfair? These children, these pure, unfiltered souls, quickly learn that their relentless questions are not welcome. They are told to stop overthinking, to just accept things as they are, to be more like the other kids who are content to play on the surface. They are encouraged to silence the very part of them that is most alive, most curious, most divinely connected. But the questions, they don't simply vanish. They merely go underground, burrowing deep into the subconscious, growing more complex, more urgent, more insistent with each passing year. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, whose pessimistic worldview deeply influenced both Nietzsche and Jung, observed that most people are like hedgehogs, trying to keep warm in the dead of winter. They huddle together for comfort and warmth, but if they get too close, they inevitably prick each other with their sharp spines. The deep thinker often feels like a hedgehog with particularly sharp and sensitive spines, desperate for the warmth of genuine connection, but seemingly destined to wound or be wounded by those who come too close. But here is where this profound phenomenon becomes even more intricate, more divinely complex. Deep thinkers are not just intellectually or emotionally different, they are neurologically distinct. The groundbreaking research of neuroscientist Dr. Elaine Aron on highly sensitive people reveals that approximately 20% of the population possesses a more sensitive and finely tuned nervous system. These individuals, whom she calls highly sensitive persons or HSPs, process information more deeply and are more acutely aware of the subtle nuances in their environment. This trait, known as sensory processing sensitivity, is not a disorder but an innate biological difference. These individuals, whose characteristics often overlap significantly with what we might call deep thinkers, have brains that literally work differently. They notice details others miss. They pick up on emotional subtleties with astonishing accuracy. They process information on a much more thorough and comprehensive level. In a world that rewards quick decisions, snap judgments, and surface-level interactions, this profound depth of processing can often feel more like a disability than a sacred gift. It can lead to overstimulation, emotional exhaustion, and a persistent feeling of being out of sync with the rest of the world. Consider the modern workplace, an environment where the deep thinker's innate need for meaning, purpose, and authenticity often crashes against the unyielding wall of corporate culture's demand for ruthless efficiency and unquestioning conformity. While others can easily compartmentalize their values, silence their conscience, and just do the job, the deep thinker struggles profoundly with tasks that feel meaningless, inauthentic, or ethically questionable. They are the ones who ask the uncomfortable questions in meetings, who point out the elephant in the room that everyone else is pretending not to see, who refuse to participate in the soul-crushing charade of office gossip or corporate doublespeak. And for this, they are often labeled. They are deemed not a team player, difficult to work with, or too negative. The very qualities that make them invaluable: their integrity, their insight, their unwavering commitment to their values, become liabilities in systems that prioritize compliance over consciousness and profit over people. The educational system provides another poignant example. From a very early age, children are taught to value the right answer over the right question. They are rewarded for memorization and compliance, not for critical thinking or creative exploration. The deep thinker child, who naturally questions assumptions and seeks genuine understanding rather than just information, often struggles in these rigid environments. Social media, in its current form, only amplifies this phenomenon, creating vast, self-reinforcing echo chambers where complexity is systematically reduced to simplistic sound bites and nuanced discussion is sacrificed at the altar of viral outrage. The deep thinker's natural inclination toward nuanced thinking and complex analysis simply doesn't translate well to platforms designed for quick consumption and instant gratification. But perhaps most insidiously, the collective unconscious of our modern society seems to have developed what we might call depth phobia, a pervasive and often unconscious fear of psychological and emotional depth. We have collectively created a culture that medicates discomfort, distracts from pain, and pathologizes sadness. We've learned to fear our own inner lives, to avoid the very introspection that might lead to genuine growth and authentic self-realization. The deep thinker, who naturally gravitates toward introspection and emotional complexity, finds themselves swimming against this powerful cultural current. They are told they're overthinking when they're actually thinking clearly and deeply. They're accused of being too sensitive when they're simply responding appropriately to genuine stimuli. They're labeled as negative when they're merely refusing to participate in the suffocating charade of toxic positivity. This creates a kind of societal gaslighting effect, where the deep thinker begins to doubt their own perceptions and experiences. They start to wonder if they really are too much, too sensitive, too complicated. They begin to internalize the collective rejection of depth and question whether their way of being in the world is somehow fundamentally wrong. This is the deep thinker's ultimate catch-22, a paradox that can feel both maddening and heartbreaking. They need authentic connection to thrive, but their very authenticity often drives people away. They need to be seen and understood in all their complexity, but their true self seems to make others deeply uncomfortable. They need community and a sense of belonging, but they struggle to find others who can match their intensity and their depth. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato illustrated this perfectly in his famous allegory of the cave. In his parable, prisoners are chained in a cave, forced to watch shadows dance upon a wall, which they mistake for reality. When one prisoner breaks free and ventures into the sunlight, he sees the world as it truly is for the first time. However, when he returns to the cave to share his profound discovery, the other prisoners, who have only ever known the comfort of their shadowy illusions, reject his testimony. They mock him, they scorn him, and they prefer their familiar, predictable shadows to the blinding, uncomfortable light of truth. The truth-teller becomes the outsider, the troublemaker, the one who disturbs the fragile peace of the collective delusion. Your truth-telling is not always welcomed, because it is often seen as disruptive, negative, or attention-seeking. You're not trying to be difficult. You are simply unable to participate in the collective denial that permeates so much of modern life. The frequency of truth is a powerful, yet often misunderstood, force. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to operate on an entirely different wavelength, a frequency of being that is tuned to a deeper reality? They speak a language that sounds like yours, but it is imbued with meanings and subtleties that you can't quite grasp or articulate. They laugh at jokes that aren't conventionally funny, they get excited about ideas that seem trivial to others, and they remain completely unmoved by experiences that touch your soul to its very core. This isn't a matter of intelligence or education, it's about the fundamental frequency at which a soul vibrates. The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung wrote extensively about the collective unconscious, that shared psychic space where humanity's deepest fears, most profound desires, and archetypal patterns reside. He believed that most people live their entire lives without ever truly encountering their own unconscious material, content to follow scripts written by others, never questioning the fundamental assumptions that guide their existence. The deep thinker, however, has made conscious and often painful contact with this deeper realm. They have touched something real, something eternal, something profoundly authentic beneath the surface of everyday consciousness. And once you have felt that level of authenticity, everything else can feel like a hollow performance. It's like discovering the full spectrum of color after living a lifetime in a black and white world. You can't unsee the vibrancy, and you can no longer pretend that grayscale is enough. This creates what we might call the frequency problem. Deep thinkers vibrate at the frequency of truth, while much of society operates at the frequency of comfort. Truth is often uncomfortable, inconvenient, and disruptive. It asks us to look at things we'd rather ignore, to feel things we'd rather numb, and to question things we'd rather take for granted. The Buddhist concept of Maya, the veil of illusion that obscures our perception of reality, speaks directly to this phenomenon. Most people live comfortably within Maya, accepting the grand illusion as reality without question. But the deep thinker has had a glimpse behind the veil, and they can no longer participate in the collective pretense with the same unconscious ease. This doesn't make them superior, it simply makes them lonely. Imagine being the only person in a crowded room who can see that the emperor has no clothes. Your truth-telling is not welcomed. It's seen as a threat to the established order. This integrity, this unwavering commitment to the integration of inner truth with outer expression, is both their sacred burden and their magnificent gift. It's a burden because it makes them aliens in their own culture, outsiders in their own society. But it's also a profound gift because it allows them to serve as witnesses to truth, as guardians of depth, and as living bridges between the conscious and the unconscious, the spoken and the unspoken, the felt and the unfelt. The existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote about the leap of faith, the courageous decision to believe in something despite the inherent uncertainty. For the deep thinker, there's a similar leap required, the leap of authenticity. It is the conscious decision to be themselves, despite the risks of rejection, to speak their truth, despite the consequences, to value depth, despite the world's overwhelming preference for the surface. This leap requires tremendous courage. It means accepting that they may be misunderstood, rejected, or isolated. It means choosing truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, and depth over ease. But it also means embracing the possibility of genuine connection, of meaningful work, and of a life lived in profound alignment with their deepest and most sacred values. The ripple effect of this authentic existence is immeasurable. The deep thinker's influence extends far beyond their immediate circle, often in ways they may never fully see or understand. Like a stone thrown into still water, their authenticity creates ripples that spread outward, subtly shifting the consciousness of those around them. Their refusal to participate in the collective unconsciousness gives others permission to wake up. Their commitment to depth creates space for others to explore their own inner worlds. This influence is often subtle and indirect. The deep thinker may never know that their willingness to ask difficult questions inspired someone else to examine their own long-held assumptions. They may never realize that their emotional honesty gave someone else the permission they needed to feel their own suppressed feelings. They may never understand that their authenticity served as a silent beacon for others who were struggling to find their own way in the darkness. But the ripples are real. Every time a deep thinker chooses authenticity over performance, truth over comfort, and depth over surface, they contribute to a larger awakening. They help to create a culture that values substance over style, meaning over distraction, and consciousness over unconsciousness. This is the deep thinker's ultimate calling, not to be understood by everyone, but to remain true to their own depth, not to fix the world, but to refuse to participate in its collective denial, not to be loved by all, but to love themselves enough to stay authentic in a world that often demands otherwise. The world needs deep thinkers now more than ever. In an age of artificial intelligence and virtual reality, we need people who can think deeply and feel authentically. In a time of increasing polarization and decreasing nuance, we need voices that can hold complexity and ambiguity. In a culture that values speed over depth, we need those who are willing to slow down and think carefully. If you recognize yourself in these words, if you feel the familiar ache of being too much in a world that prefers less, then this is your invitation. It's an invitation to stop apologizing for your depth, to stop shrinking to make others comfortable, to stop pretending that shallow is enough. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You are awake in a world that prefers to sleep, conscious in a society that often chooses unconsciousness, authentic in a culture that rewards performance. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it is your superpower. Your depth is not a burden, it is your gift. Your intensity is not a problem, it is your strength. The world needs what you have to offer, even if it doesn't always know how to receive it. The path forward isn't about becoming less of who you are. It's about becoming more skilled at being who you are. It's about learning to distinguish between environments that can hold your depth and those that cannot. It's about finding your tribe while still maintaining compassion for those who aren't part of it. It's about learning to love yourself so deeply that the world's rejection cannot touch your core. It's about developing such a strong and intimate relationship with your own authenticity that you can afford to be patient with others' unconsciousness. It's about becoming so rooted in your own truth that you can weather any storm of misunderstanding. The deep thinker's journey is not an easy one. It requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to walk alone when necessary. But it also offers rewards that those who stay on the surface will never know. The joy of authentic connection, the satisfaction of meaningful work, and the profound peace of living in alignment with your deepest values. You are not alone in this. Scattered across the world are others like you, also questioning, also feeling, also seeking depth in a shallow world. Some you will find, others will find you. Trust that your authenticity is a beacon that will attract those who can appreciate its light. The world may seem to prefer illusion, but deep down, it's crying out for truth. It may seem to reward performance, but secretly, it's hungry for authenticity. It may seem to value the surface, but its soul is starving for depth. You are the answer to that hunger. You are the light in the darkness. You are the depth in the shallows. You are the truth in the illusion. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. Don't shrink your truth to fit their comfort zones. Don't apologize for being exactly who you are. The world needs your questions, your feelings, your depth, your truth. It needs your refusal to accept easy answers, your insistence on meaning, your commitment to authenticity. It needs your beautiful, complicated, intense, magnificent self. So be yourself, fully, completely, unapologetically. The world may not always understand, but it will be forever changed by your presence. And in the end, that's all any of us can do. Be who we are, as deeply and authentically as possible, and trust that it's enough, because it is. You are enough. You are more than enough. You are exactly what the world needs, even if it doesn't always know it. Welcome to the tribe of the awake. Welcome to the community of the conscious. Welcome to the fellowship of the deep. You are home.